Essay on my experience with dog food. My experience with dog food was the best expressed with sensory details on what is happening. I will describe to you in extreme detail on my story of adventure in dog food. I will tell you how I walked to the box, how I scooped the material up, and how I placed it in the bowl with Henry. These experiences are things that describe how I fed my dog, Henry. It all started with me sitting down on a small stool/bench. The bench was a stained brown color with a flower pattern and cushion on top with a beautiful bench. On the top of the beautiful bench. I was inside my house in Utah on a perfect clear day. I slowly turned my head from the computer monitor to the outside, which was so amazing. I saw our backyard in its glory, trees in bloom, green grass and lovely fence to act as a river present. As I sat there, distracted, a faint whining was traveling through an unknown area of the house. In response to this strange sound, I yelled the four-letter word "what" very loudly. After a short pause of 15 seconds, I heard again this strange but distinguishable tone. I faintly recognized my mother pleading to me to travel outside to the box of our Henry, our dog. I responded with a whimsical "sure" that was so long and spread out it almost seemed sarcastic. I knew then it was time to take action. I then found the will to stand up, pushing the bench I was recently sitting on with my thighs that were now in an upright position in the bench's dismay. I looked around the room. My surroundings had not changed since the last time my eyes feasted upon this place. The room was empty with drywall, bare. We had been doing remodeling at that time. I then ambled on the wood floor to the white door, which led to a grand adventure that I had done every single day. The next thing that happened was pretty wild. I was now centered in the middle of the room, and I could see the door, currently closed ahead of me. The door had a window in the middle of the door. I couldn't see my dog anywhere in sight, so I proceeded to my target without caution. I continued to walk till my cold, tired hand reached the brass snake, the handle, to unlock my destiny. I looked at the handle and saw its perfect reflection in the light coming from the life-size window. I pressed my hand slightly to no avail. I heard a slight click noise coming from inside the mechanism, especially from above the handle. I noticed that the lock was turned right and it wasn't allowing me to open the door. I, in return, lifted my faithful hand up to the familiar click, the brass lock that matched the plate that it rested on. I gently gripped it and turned till I heard the familiar click. Then I was ready to trigger the mechanism with my right hand. I quickly came back to the handle and depressed until the air pressure from the outside seemed to open the door automatically. I switched places with the door to the point then I was now outside. The air hit me first in my t-shirt. The chilling quick freeze changed my paradigm about the outside. I suddenly knew that I needed to move fast or be frozen in the 50-degree weather I was now surviving on the verge. I engaged my legs in a way that took me across the cold ground, while barefoot that took me across the back porch and found the dog food Tupperware. I had finally made it. Here was the fruits of my labor. I knew it was not over, though. I still had to find the food in the bowl. The issue was now a very dangerous and terrifying thing. I had to perform the next few steps without waking the beast who all of this was for, who would thwart my plans to feed without peace and quiet. The Tupperware had a small mechanism that would close the airtight as not to let savage air dry it out. I pinched it with my right hand and pulled up so that the airlock let out a small explosion of air pressure that created a whoosh sound. I then threw back the gray lid and gazed about the treasure inside the Tupperware. I smelled a delicious cracker smell that almost seemed appetizing to my senses. I searched the shelf for the metal scoop that I used to relocate the food into his bowl. I gripped the handle and I scooped the stuff with a circular swipe of this top layer of food. I then carefully elevated the stuff out of the Tupperware, and finally, the simple gray bowl that was made out of cheap metal, I then poured out the food into the bowl. It fell hard into the bowl with a large clanking sound. This alarmed me because that would be sure to bring the beast Henry to attention. I then quickly tossed the scoop through the air from my crouch position and landed it perfectly into the Tupperware. I stood up and moved to the box. I reached to the back of the box and quickly lifted the lid back onto the box. But now I heard the familiar ring of a small metal plate jingling on a collar, the click of claws on the porch as I turned around. It accelerated to a more rational sound. That is when I saw the grisly face of my dog Henry. I enjoyed portraying this small experience in a long essay about how I fed my dog. It took lots of effort to portray it, and I thank you for taking your time to enjoy this short piece. Wait, don't finish. Number 2. Finally, we had made it to the lake. I stood there motionless with my long hair blowing in the wind, the long tendrils loving my face and reminding me of their existence. I was the happiest I have ever been. I was in Switzerland. Every second was a new magical experience. I remember opening my eyes and gazing upon the beautiful landscape. I saw the amazing green mountains and the gray imposing cliffs. I saw the deep blue lake that seemed to hug the mountain in front of me. The area looked like every single inch of the land had been hand-trimmed to out-of-world perfection. I saw my family, my mom sitting on the shore behind me, reading a book. My brother was playing with my cousin, and my sister was playing on the playground behind me. I could feel my toes wriggling in the comfortable grass below my feet. I started to walk toward the shore of the lake. As I walked, I could feel the component of the dirt below my feet change from dirt into sand. When I breathed in, I felt so happy, and when I breathed out, I felt no stress fill my lungs. Everything was so perfect. I began to think. I thought about how could I not live in such a beautiful place like the place I was currently staying? The rocky shore seemed to penetrate my feet, but to no avail, apparently, because my mind was in a better land. As I walked closer, I heard my mother on my left stopping me. I managed to remember what she had said. I managed to remember her encouraging me to get in the water, which quickly became logic when she said it a second time. I responded with a quick response of sure, but my voice cracked so it sounded like a question instead of a statement. I regained my feet with a repeat with no voice crack. She looked at me strange and then turned her head to the blue captain, pointing his finger, telling his comrade to continue forward. I decided to take off my shirt and then threw it on the ground next to my mother. I was wearing only swim trunks now, so I was very prepared to get into the water. I now started to slowly walk from the lake to the lake with my hands crossed in an attempt to give myself warmth. The breeze went from being a friend to somewhat annoying stranger. I now was on the pure fine sand, which signaled me that I was nearing the water. The sand became a cushion under my feet and helped me into the water. When my big toe made contact with a shot of cold water bolted through my spine like a drug. I trudged slowly through the water. The cold seemed to wake me up, and I suddenly became more aware. When the water came up to my abdominal region, I didn't care about the cold, and I was immersed myself in Luzerne. All that was a head rush, and it made me more awake. I was crouching in the water. The water took away my weight, so I could easily just walk through the water. I walked till I had to swim, and then I did a breaststroke through the water. I swam, but was swimming to get a better view of the lake rather than to have the thrill of swimming. I heard my mother trying to catch my attention. I looked back over and saw her beckoning to me to come back to my shore. I began to swim back. The water looked very empty below me, but as I noticed to my left, a deeper area at the shore of an empty platform, maybe for scuba diving. As I gazed into the empty space, I noticed a reflection of something. Hit with curiosity, I swam over there to the area and noticed a large school of fish. Normally I would have passed the school of fish, but these fish were not your regular freshwater fish. They seemed foreign. The fish seemed tropical, like you would see at a pet store, and they swam around the platform in such a beautiful pattern. This was truly a magnificent experience. The fish were truly life-changing. They changed my point of view and made me think of an international travel in a more respectful way. I love riding planes and hope to have a similar experience soon. Thank you for reading.